Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, so today I'm going to put together another odds and ends video, mainly because things are stacking up over here once again, and I need to get this stuff put up and out of the way. And we got some cool items that have come into the shop over the last couple of weeks. Some new tools, viewer mail, etc., etc. Let's see what kind of goodies we can get into this week. So up first, got some tools that were sent in, or actually brought over to the shop by Hugh Bryan. Hugh lives down in Louisiana, but over the last month or two, he's had to make frequent trips to Douglas, Georgia, which is only about 30-45 minutes from here for work. And he's been kind enough to come by the shop, and he actually brought along some goodies. First off, he wanted to come take a little tour of the shop, which we worked out while he was in the area. He came back a second time and had brought some stuff that he had kind of surplus to him. So what do we got here? Number one, we got a nice big taper shank drill bit. This is a Morse taper number 4 2-inch drill, and it is practically brand spanking new. I don't think it may have ever even been used. I think it's razor sharp. This is a little adapter. This goes from a Morse taper number 2 to a Morse taper number 4. So say you had a lathe that had a number 2 Morse taper on it, and you wanted to use this number 4 drill bit, no problem. Look at here, you got a number 4 on that side. You put that in there, and now you've got the ability to put this in a smaller machine. So pretty handy to have these around for some applications. I've got a couple in different sizes. I don't know if I got one that size or not. And in the tube, I think it's just another drill bit, yeah. So it's basically a twin to this one. Again, brand spanking new. I don't think it's ever been used. And those will be nice additions to the shop. 2 inches is a size that seems to come across fairly often, and I can use these over either on the Monarch lathe. I can use it over on my radial drill. There's lots of machines in here that I can put these to do some heavy duty drilling. So Hugh, thank you very much for bringing these along, and we will definitely make good use of them here in the shop. Up next, got an item sent in by C.L. Allen, who lives up in Iowa, and he sent in a pretty cool catalog. This is an old catalog from Metalcraft Supply Company, Providence, Rhode Island. What was the date? 1940 something on it, 1948. And basically equipment and supplies for brass, pewter, aluminum, jewelry, silver, and copper work. So kind of more artsy type stuff, but some really neat tools in here for doing that kind of work. And these old catalogs are just an incredible reference to have around. You find tools that are in these things. Sometimes you run across tools, you don't know what they are. Like, for example, if you ran across some of these chasing tools, would you know what they are? Some of you might, most of you probably wouldn't. But when you look through these old catalogs, you see stuff, and then when you run across it in the wild, you remember, oh yeah, I remember seeing that. And I really get a kick out of looking at all these things. There's just some really neat stuff in here to look at and have as a reference. And for someone that likes old tools like I do, anyway, really nice to have. So anyway, CL, thank you so much for sending that along. I will add this to my library. And this one right here very well will probably end up getting scanned and put up onto the VintageMachinery.org website as well, so other people can look at it. Don't know how long it'll take us to get it done, but we'll put it in the queue and see about getting it on there. And again, thank you very much. I was just looking at the top. It says Ms. E.H. Allen Jr. He is C.L. Allen. So I'm betting that this belonged either to his mother or grandmother. I'm just taking a wild guess. Same last name, different initials. So I'm betting it's either his mother's or his grandmother's catalog. Pretty cool. Next item here, this one I'm really, really, really excited about because this is really cool. Anyway, if you remember a while back, I did a project in the shop. You might have seen the video on it where we made a new lead screw to go in a surface grinder. And that was for a gentleman lives up north of me a couple of hours in middle Georgia, Ron Brees. Ron is a very well-known tool maker. Does some absolutely exquisite Super talented guy, makes all kinds of woodworking tools, including hand planes, chisels, and just really makes some beautiful, beautiful stuff. Well, in exchange for me making the parts for fixing his surface grinder, he paid me in exchange for a set of handmade wood chisels here. These are for cutting dovetails, dovetail chisels, and these are some of the tools that he makes and sells. Just absolutely beautiful, beautiful tools. The handles on these are turned out of desert ironwood. The actual chisel is made out of, I'm not sure what kind of tool steel, but some kind of tool steel. I know he heat treats them, and he uses his surface grinder to grind them, and that's what we was helping him fix, was his surface grinder. And you can tell that is polished to a mirror down here on the bottom. These things are razor, razor sharp. He told me that he actually made this set for himself, and he owed me a set of chisels, and he ended up sending this one along to me. He said the only thing he ever used them for was making this box that they're in. And you look on this, it's got hand-cut dovetails on there that sits inside this nice, nice box to store them in, keep them safe. Has felt back here to protect the back of the planes, and just puts a piece of cover or piece of leather over to cover them up in the shop. Don't have to worry about a lid or something to have to take out of the way to get to them. So again, I am super, super excited about this. Ron's products are highly sought after, and like I said, he does some absolutely beautiful work, and to own some of his tools is just an absolute privilege for me. And it's also kind of neat to know that he's a big fan of the channel, watches stuff all the time. I've been communicating with him. I've never actually met him, but we've been communicating via email and messages and stuff for several years now. And for someone that's no farther away than he is, I probably need to make a trip up there sometime. He actually wants to get down and visit my shop. He was going to bring these himself, and things just got busy, so he popped them in the mail to me. But really excited to have these. I will tell you guys, I have a thing for chisels. I like chisels. I don't know why I like chisels. I have a bunch of chisels in my woodworking tools, and but these are by far the finest, highest quality chisels that I own, and I'm actually itching to get in there and cut some dovetails and try these things out. So you guys may be seeing a video coming up soon of me making a little dovetail box or something. I've got one I promised to a guy a while back and haven't gotten around to making it, so maybe this will give me the incentive I need to get that done. So there you go. Ron, thank you so much. I hope that my new lead screw for your machine works half as nice as I know that these are, and I'm sorry, but I think I got the better end of the deal on this trade, but thank you very much. Next item came in from Dan Keith out in California, and just he took my Vintage Machinery logo and somehow or another pulled that into some of his software and 3D printed a little badge for me. These are always cool to have around. Very nice work there. Turned out really nice on the 3D printer, and we'll put it around the shop somewhere as shop art. But Dan, thank you very much. I've seen some of Dan's work that he's done. He does some absolutely really neat 3D printing work. And doing some scale models and things like that. Really neat things he's shared with me in the past. So he's a super talented guy, lives out on the West Coast. So Dan, thank you very much. Another neat item came from Philip Lanier. Philip actually visited the shop this past week. He purchased something from me and drove down from the Atlanta area to pick it up and dropped off this really neat railroad book that he picked up somewhere along the way. And this is the official guide to standard time railroads. Basically, this has all the timetables and stuff for pretty much all of the railroads across the entire country. So if you were planning a trip, wanted to go somewhere, figure out when trains are arriving and departing in different places, you could plan your trip using this book. And this one dates to March of 1946. So a couple of interesting things I'd show in here, at least interesting to me. I got a couple of things bookmarked in here. So first off, I got the map for the Southern Railway system. And I live in Tifton, Georgia, and Norfolk Southern now comes through town. That's pretty much our main railroad provider or system that comes through here. And if you look on the map here, let me find it again. I had it a while ago. So here's Atlanta. The line goes down to Macon, and then there's a branch that runs down. This used to be the Georgia Southern and Florida Railroad, which Southern purchased sometime in the early 1900s. This ran from basically Macon to Jacksonville and Palatka, Florida. There was a spur that went down to Live Oak, I think, at one time. But still called the Georgia Southern and Florida branch of the Norfolk Southern today. But this, of course, this is a Southern Railway days before before Southern merged with Norfolk and Western and became Norfolk Southern. But right here you see Tifton on the map, and that is our main railroad that comes through here. We used to at one time had 3 different railroads that crossed in Tifton, but we're pretty much down to just the one now. Let's see, there's another one here. This one is the Atlantic Coast Line. Now this was the other big railroad, I guess you could say, that came through Tifton at one time. Atlantic Coast Line merged with the Seaboard system, became Seaboard Coast Line, and eventually got merged into CSX. And again, right here is Tifton, Georgia. There was a line that ran from Waycross, Georgia to Albany, Georgia, and basically ran right down what is now US 82. Back in the 1980s, they pretty much pulled up most of that track. I think they still have some track from Waycross to Pearson, Georgia, which is somewhere along in here. And there's still some track between Albany and Sylvester. But pretty much none of that track is in use, or at least not commonly in use. I think the spur down here between Waycross and Pearson is pretty much just got cars sitting on it for storage, and over here between Albany and Sylvester is pretty much grown up. There were trains running on it not too terribly long ago, but anyway, kind of cool. And let's see, my next one here, I looked in here and found the timetable. This is how you can look up. This was on the old Atlantic Coast Liner, the ACL, and Tifton, Georgia in here. This shows when the trains arrived. These would have been passenger trains. The city of Miami was the name of the train, and it arrived in Tifton at 5:49 a.m. every day. There was another train, the Flamingo, that arrived in Tifton at 5:48 p.m. And the Dixie Limited, that must have been the same train. It arrived at the same time. Had, I guess, different names. The Seminole came in at 3:28 a.m. and the Dixie Flyer and the Southland came in at 4:16 a.m. So anyway, kind of neat. Over here it has some departure times, but anyway, this is how you would use this. You would figure out, you know, which train you wanted to get on. You'd look on here and find out what time they arrived at the different stations, and you'd make sure you were there. And looking on, another railroad of interest to me is the Central of Georgia Railroad. And while that one does not run through my hometown, it had a branch that ran basically from Savannah over to Macon and then Columbus. In Savannah, Georgia, they have the Roundhouse Museum there. And I think it's actually, they call it the Georgia Railroad Museum now, but there's an old roundhouse there that's set up really neat. If you're ever in Savannah, go by and take a look at it. But there was another roundhouse, I think in Columbus, Georgia, at one time that was part of the Central of Georgia. And why that is of interest to me is that my Carlton radial drill actually was sold to the Central of Georgia Railroad and was at one time in the repair shops in Columbus, Georgia. I've been able to track down the history of it. So that one's kind of interesting to me as well. Anyway, pretty neat little book. You know, this was not something that was really made to last a long time. The paper in here is not very quality paper. This was something that they would probably come out with an updated edition every month and you just throw the old one away. The fact that this thing has survived is pretty amazing, particularly in the condition that it's in, which is pretty good. This is basically like newsprint is all this is. So very neat to have, and I'll be glad to have that in my collection. Thank you very much, Philip, for bringing that down. Next comes from Tom Knopp, who is at Hilltop Machine Works in Rural Retreat, Virginia, and he sent along a picture that he took in his shop of machining one of my little 9-inch straight edges that we have for sale. If you watch the channel a lot, you've probably seen these in the past. I have these cast over at Windy Hill Foundry, and this is something that we use in machinery building, and this is a little small 9-inch version that's really handy for doing like compounds and cross slides on lathes and things like that. I sell a rough casting, and then basically it becomes a project where people can machine it and then scrape this in to a reference surface for machinery building. So anyway, he had purchased one of these and took a pretty cool picture of him while he was machining the 45-degree dovetail angle on the front of it there, and was kind enough to send a copy of the photo along to me, which I greatly appreciate, Tom. Thank you very much. If you're interested in any of these straight edges, the 9-inch ones are for sale up on my website over at VintageMachinery.org. Store.VintageMachinery.org is where we have those for sale, and we will soon, very soon, be offering these in a 12-inch version. We are just waiting on Clark over at Windy Hill Foundry to get a pretty good stockpile of them because we know whenever we offer them for sale that they're probably going to have a big initial slug of orders. So we're just trying to make sure we've got enough on hand before we start selling them so that people aren't ordering them and having to wait months to get them. But he is producing them right now pretty quickly. He's finally got all of his bugs and kinks worked out of that particular pattern, that casting, and he's been cranking them out pretty hot and heavy here lately. So I'm hoping in the next month or two we'll have some of those for sale. And like I said, the 9-inch ones are available right now. So Tom, thanks for sending that along. Very cool picture, and really nice to see people actually buying these and turning them into tools. So up next comes a nice little gift from Stan Floyd. Stan had picked up somewhere along the way, found some old vintage photographs of this locomotive from the National Museum of Transportation. Looks like a 484 steam locomotive, and this was obviously under power at some point in time. These are some old pictures. I don't really know the entire history on them, but anyway, he was kind enough to send these along. He actually had them framed and sent that along to me. Very, very nice of them. I think what I'm going to do with this is going to go up in my office. It's a little bit too nice to be out here in the shop, but pretty neat of an old, cool steam locomotive. And Stan, thank you so much again for thinking of me and sending it along. Greatly appreciated. You guys know my love for steam. So this will be very nice to have. Thank you very much. Next item comes from Andrew Hossington, and Andrew sent this in. Basically, he said he had a bunch of tooling that was either duplicate stuff for him or just too large for him to use in his shop, and I was looking for a new home for it, and was kind enough to pack some stuff up and send down to me. Nice little collection of some interesting things in here. We got these reamers over here that are nice for if you ever need to ream out like a pin that's inside of something else. You got this nice guide to kind of get it up in there. If you want a kind of a ream for alignment between two mating parts, that's what these are really good for. I got some silver and Deming style, so reduced shank drill bits here in a couple of different sizes. These are pulley taps, 7/16 long tap. They call them pulley taps because they were, if you had like a pulley, you needed to tap the hub and needed to be able to go down through the pulley to get to it. You needed a tap like this, so pulley taps is the name. Some brazed on carbide. This stuff is brand new, never even been used. Great big end mill here. These are interesting. These are broaches for doing some type of internal spline. And I think these were shop made even. They basically would have cut the spline on here and then put this on the lathe, and each ring is just a slightly larger diameter, and you push this through with a on a arbor press or a hydraulic press, and it just cuts it out. Of course, this would have been hardened. It would have been hardened, but I think these were all shop made, which is kind of pretty cool. I have no idea what they would have been used for, but anyway, nice. Never know when something like that you might need. We got some taper shank drill bits up here in various sizes. I'll put those over in my index of my other ones. Always nice to have those. And then probably the neatest thing in here, these big angle blocks back here. And these are actually some really nice ones. These are made by Eclipse. They're made in England. They're pretty old, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, there's some wear in this one on both of them where you can tell it looked like they had these set up for do a particular job, because all the wear is in one place, like one particular size of material was going through this thing. I bet it was bought for doing some type of production job, and that's all they ever used it for. But they're in good shape as they are. Like I said, there's a little bit of wear mark in one little area there, but unless you had something round in that exact spot, probably wouldn't matter. And if I really was that concerned about it, I could regrind them and get them back to perfect if I so chose. But I'll probably just leave them like they are. They'll serve my purpose well. So anyway, Andrew, thank you very much. Some very nice tooling. Again, we'll put this up and you'll probably see it in use at some point down the line. Some useful stuff in here for sure. Last item here, got a box of books from John Schoenfield. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, up in Connecticut. Sent these along, and you know, this is really nice. You guys know I have a love for old books and stuff, anything technical and what have you, but these are really neat. These little new Chaplin Encyclopedia for young folk. I was looking through some of these earlier. There's just all kinds of really cool stuff in these, and it brought back memories from my childhood of looking through encyclopedias and things like that were for kids. I learned so much just looking at that kind of stuff and looking through these books. You know, I really think it's a shame that in today's society that you know, everything's on the computer and kids don't go look at books. They don't have time to look at books because they're surrounded with so much media and entertainment all the time. I used to get lost in books like this, and I learned so much, and it sparked so many interests, and it's just really neat. And you know, I've got 2 grandkids now that are coming along. They're not old enough yet to be looking through books, but I think this set right here is going to be where they can get their hands on them, because I can remember going to my grandparents' house when I was a kid and having some encyclopedias that were for children, and again, spend hours looking through there, looking at the pictures, reading the different stuff. There's stuff that I still remember to this day that I read in those books as a child, and I think it just does an awful lot to be able to do that. Down here we got some popular mechanics, do-it-yourself encyclopedias. I'm going to spend some time looking through these too. These ought to be pretty cool. And a history of the American steam navigation, which is a nice little history book. And this is the kind of stuff I like to read. So I very well, Morrison, okay. I think this is the same Morrison that did a lot of the history for the United States Navy during World War II, if I remember right. I'm gonna have to see if it's the same Morrison, but makes sense, kind of a similar topic. I've read some of his stuff before, if it is, interesting. So anyway, cool stuff. Yeah, these will go up to the house, and like I said, these will get for the kids. The lights are flickering. I need to get this thing off. We got a bad storm about to come through here, and I've already got tornado warnings in the area. The lights have been flickering for a little while. The wind's getting up outside, so we're going to probably cut this video short. Well, there you go, guys. Another episode of Odds and Ends in the books, and I got my desk cleaned off over there, my counter where I pile stuff up, so that's always a good sign as well. Hope you enjoyed that. How you like the bookends here? Yeah, I was needing something to set those up. Those big squares worked out perfect for that, but these will be going up to the house. And I think we are going to go ahead and cut it loose. Like I said, this big storm's coming up on us here pretty quick. I need to get up in the house, probably where it's a little bit safer. We'll be fine. It's springtime in South Georgia. Bad storms are part of the problem. But we deal with them every year. Hopefully this one won't be too terribly bad. Let's cut it off there, guys. We'll catch you on the next video. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thumbs up, comments, greatly appreciated. Hit the bell icon to get notifications. A big thank you to all the Patreon supporters out there. Couldn't do what we do without you guys. And with that, that will be a wrap. As always, thanks for watching.